Cheers, Isabel. Now it's time to have another look through this morning's papers with writer Emma Wolfe and broadcaster Matthew Studland. Welcome back, both. Emma, you're going to kick us off with a story in The Telegraph.
Yeah, which you have been discussing. This is Mel Stride, the Work and Pension Secretary. He's been looking at sort of how people are assessed to be signed off work. And he's just saying what many, many people have been saying for a long time, which is this has gone too far. That many normal conditions, which are basically everyday anxieties, anxiety disorders, people worrying about things, are being used as a way of basically being signed off work, if not for life. I mean, our welfare bill is set to hit 100 billion this year. We've got 150,000 people, on estimate, who could actually be working, who have milder conditions, things like anxieties. And I think what we've said for many a long time is that actually life is not easy. There are ups and downs. You're not always going to be happy. There are things that are going to be challenging. Of course, mental health conditions, physical disability, anything like that need to be taken seriously.
This is what annoys me so much, and Nick knows this. I had a breakdown 5 years ago, and I never thought I would, and it lasted 3 months, and it was horrible, and I used to be the sort of person who would go, oh, just take some medicine. However, I genuinely believe that it is fantastic that we have lit up the ability to understand that people have a hard time. But I can never change my view that, unfortunately, we have got to a point now where some people just need to pull their trousers up and get the hell on with their day. And I do. Yes. But whenever I say that, people go, yes, but they're all disabled and mentally ill. No, they're not. We have now, I'm afraid, a benefit system that has allowed a generation of people to not work, and that is pathetic and wrong when we are screwed financially.
But without sounding unsympathetic, it's also not good for them. It's not helpful to anybody to live a life not working on benefits. And I love what Mel Stride says. He says, as a culture, we seem to have forgotten that work is good for mental health.
Yes.
We all have days when we wake up and we do not want to even leave the house, let alone get on with anything.
Try getting up at 2:30 in the morning.
Exactly. You do feel that in the morning. But even, just regular jobs, normal hours jobs. But actually, once you get going, once you, get in the shower, get out of the thing, go to the office, work with other people, do something with your day, most people will feel better.
But Matthew, do you not think that using language like this can be a bit dismissive and unsympathetic? I don't think that whilst I take your point, I think it is bad that we often pathologise natural and normal human emotions and sort of misdiagnose it as a mental health condition, as it were. But does language like this really, really help to get somebody out of bed and want to go back to work?
It's really tricky. I think, actually, Mel Stride, credit to him, seems to have struck something of a good balance here, because he does say that it's great that people who've suffered in silence in the past are now being able to get the help that they need.
Yes.
Now, like Jeremy, I suffered from some sort of breakdown in 2020 when I was a presenter on LBC because I was really, really frightened that I was going to kill people with COVID. I couldn't persuade myself that I definitely didn't have it. This was before those lateral flow tests came in.
Yeah.
And I used to have to talk to my dad, my now wife, who at the time was a friend. We hadn't sort of got involved romantically. Many times a day, or, in the case of my dad, sometimes hours a day, to persuade myself to get into the studio and that I wasn't going to kill the cleaner with COVID. I was terrified about it. I took the government's rules and the government's messaging to a sort of extreme logical extent that meant that actually I was no longer being rational, right?
I get that, but do you not think there are people who are using it as an excuse? And the Labour Party said this last week on this show.
Yeah, also, young people are being told that feeling anxious or having any kind of issues or not wanting to be around other people, any of the feelings that one has, as part of normal life,
finish the point that
resilience.
Yes.
And that's
by getting up.
For them.
I'm not a doctor, but my instincts are with everyone on this. The difficulty comes when you actually find an individual, rather than talk about it in a generality like we are and like Mel Stride is. You find, much more difficult if we had someone who was off work here for mental health reasons, for us to then point a finger at him or her and say, I'm really sorry, but you just got to buck up.
But Matt, with respect, that's my problem with the whole debate. There is a difference between mental illness and a breakdown. Fantastic, we're shining a light. There is a difference between genuine disability and people and a generation that go, it's all a bit too much for me. Get off your backside and go to work, because you will benefit as well.
How do you and I decide? My point is...
All right, this is what it's about.
Let's be rigorous about this.
The work assessment capability. This is what it's about.
Yes,
it's
but are they getting it wrong? Do we know that they're getting it wrong? If one of these people was sitting here in the room, would we all be prepared to point the finger at them and say, get off your backside and go back to work.
But you
don't
didn't
think-
have this
I
reaction
don't think
last
it's
week
as
when the
simple
Labour
as-
Party said the same. Jonathan Ashworth said, and I quote, there's 1 million people of the 3 million who need to go back to work.
I'm not
I
partisan about this. I'm not partisan about
So
this.
how do we
I
work
just think
that
it's
out, is what you're
difficult.
saying,
But
right?
no one is saying get off your backside and go back to work. It's about, and Mel Stride even talks about this. He says, if people are feeling anxious, if there's certain things they can't do, maybe we could talk about them starting off working from home.
Yep.
No one, I think, would dispute what you've talked about, which, by the way, is so opposite to my COVID thing, which was like, bloody hell, I'm going to break all the rules. But you were clearly going through an intensely... Yeah, that is mental illness. When you were that sick about a perceived threat, blah, 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 I think anyone would have said, OK, you need to be off work
My
while
friends
you
are
deal with
worried
that.
about
I couldn't
me.
get out of
Yes.
bed.
I understand,
Yes,
but
but that's a
nobody,
breakdown.
not a single person is going to be helped by people being judgmental or saying, actually, you don't have something. None of us here are doctors. None of us can be in anyone else's brain. So I think we have to be careful about saying, no, what you have is not a mental health condition. However, I will accept that we do over-pathologise in this country or in Western culture and say, actually, there's something wrong with you, whereas
Every
probably...
child's now got ADHD.
Let me finish my point.
That's it.
Because lots of children do have ADHD, and I
Not all of them.
Well, I completely reject that categorisation as well.
I don't think
However-
it's helpful to label people. I
I
think
don't
it
either.
does people a disservice when you say
I'm
to
not
them,
labelling anybody.
you've got anxiety disorder, you're not going to work. I
Yeah.
think it would help them more to give
Guys,
them...
I'm just trying to move on to the next story.
give them the support, to give
I
them
was just
support
trying to finish a point.
to
No, correct,
work,
correct.
And move
so
on to the
they're
next
not,
story.
Just finish.
so
Go on,
they're
Nick.
not signed off mentally ill. It's not a position that anyone wants to be in, and especially not for young people. The level of 18 to 24-year-olds signed off and not in work is scandalous, and it does them a disservice because you don't start work, you don't start your career, you just end up on a life of joblessness.
Yes, we do have to move on, otherwise I will lose my job. Matthew, tell us about this ding-dong over Devon bongs.
What a great way of describing it. That was cool. Ding dong over what?
So this is bells in a Devonshire village.
It's the Times, it's not, Nicola.
It was fantastic. Go on.
It's a village called Witheridge, and I think
Right.
some villagers are not happy that one villager who wants to remain nameless, but the Times have perhaps unhelpfully
Yeah,
said
where
that
he
they live
lives.
just 30 metres away from the church.
He lives 30 metres from the church. He's clearly identifiable. He's like a worker in a
I'm
specific...
thinking Vicar of Dibley. Am I talking that sort of?
Yeah, it's that
village?
kind of village.
Basically, this is a village in Witheridge where somebody has told whoever runs the clock that it needs to stop. They've put in a noise.
Well, the vicar,
complaint.
he had a conversation with the
Every
vicar,
15
Nicola,
minutes throughout the night.
and-
Bong!
and the vicar
every
is-
15 minutes.
The vicar is said to have said to this complainant, as described, that they just get used to it. But these are bongs every 15 minutes. And the person who's complained about it when they walk, when they're
He lives
renting, when
30 metres from there.
when they moved in, right,
Yeah.
they didn't realise that the bonging was going to go on every 15 minutes. I love church bells, but every 15 minutes,
It's
if
too
you're
much.
30
Too much. I
metres
feel
away,
very,
it's
very
This
too
is all
much.
about.
Yeah.
Nicola's got lots to say. Go.
Well, thank you for your permission, Jeremy. I can
No, but I
speak
haven't read
now.
the story. You said I've got in the break. You said I'm very big on this story.
Let me say it then. OK, church bells, I don't think that they should be going on throughout the night time. I would say maybe 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. There is a church mere 100 yards from where I live, and it goes through the night, and St Paul's as well. I drove past it at, 3:45 this morning, loud as anything. And I thought, well, anybody living in this area will be woken up. Does my head in. I don't think anyone's... not necessarily religion, because church bells aren't really used for religion, but those religious buildings should not be imposing their rules and regulations on everybody else at
It
that
is.
time
It's
in
like
the
when you
morning.
stay in a B&B and then the bomb...
I don't think anybody disagrees
The
with you. I mean,
grandfather
just do
clock
it,
starts
just do it
going
during
off
the light. Do
in
it,
the
do it
middle of
when
the-
people are up. Why would you want that every 15 minutes?
But then also there's nurses who work night shifts who don't want to listen to it during the day. I just think
Yeah.
we've all got our smartphones. We know what time it is. It's not a problem. We don't need a church bell to tell us everything.
And
you shouldn't have a smartphone if you're under 16.
No,
And to be fair, the man did offer to pay £3,000 to fit a silencer. This poor
a
guy.
silencer on a bell.
That's what
How'd
they've
you
done.
do
That's what
that?
they've done now.
Guess
They
how
have a
much it
silencer.
ended up costing the parish council to stop the bells overnight? £2,000.
Why?
It broke.
very
Is there a
good
person
question.
doing it, or
That's
is it automatic?
exactly what I was
Yeah.
going to say. Come on, Maisie, calm down now. You've had your
Have they
shift.
put him out of a job?
What, do that again?
No.
No. OK.
This guy is a bell ringer, by the way. I've actually read the story.
Ah,
no, he
right,
offered
so-
to pay for it. When he moved in, he didn't realise it was going to go off because
you've
the
missed
top
the point.
was broken.
This isn't... You see, my years of doing what I did. This guy was sacked, right, from ringing the bells, and he's got a bitter and twisted case against the whole thing. He's been sacked. That's why he lives by, and he's trying to put the
Luckily,
boot
he's
in.
anonymous. Otherwise,
Well, he was
He might
anonymous.
sue you for libel, Jeremy.
Right, can we move on really, really quickly to this story about about Emmanuel Macron because he has been flexing his muscles, hasn't he, Emma?
Yeah, I mean, he's released one of these kind of Putin-style photos, which show
It looks a lot stronger than Putin these
virile
days,
he is. I'm not sure what the point of this photo is. I mean, they've got the Paris Games coming up later this summer, so he's in Olympic form, apparently.
They're pretty good guns, let's face it.
They are.
Well, how do they compare to other leaders, though, Matthew? Because I believe we've got some images here of
Can we have Keir Starmer looking
politicians.
pathetic?
There's Putin playing.
But Putin is a black belt.
Judo.
And you wouldn't mess with him.
There's Trump playing golf.
Trump looking ever so athletic. There
We
on the
don't
right
get
of the
this with
screen.
Sunak. Sunak never...
Sunak
Big
dropping
up.
it.
New Zealand. That's New Zealand.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but here's
Of
it.
course, Barack Obama throwing it in from 100 yards.
Obama can do no wrong in that respect.
He just languidly rushed over and just went, hey,
He's
dude. And
as cool as a cucumber. But
he might be cool. What about Boris? Come on, what about Boris when he did rugby and knocked the child out? Oh, we haven't got that. Do you remember that? Let's grab the ball, knock this child flying in the opposite direction.
Boris Johnson goes jogging, doesn't he, in those rather unflattering t-shirts.
Really? He just puts on that fleece and the old shorts.
But look, this is good. And we
Yeah.
talked about mental health earlier. I do think, and again, I'm not a doctor, but I do think that physical activity can
Very
help
true.
you.
Yeah,
Very
that's
You know,
the
some
thing.
basic stuff can help you.
Very true.
And imagine
Absolutely.
how stressful it is being the president of France, being the prime minister of Britain, keeping in shape. And to his credit, Sunak does keep in shape. That's a good thing.
His trousers are too short. The editor of this show, later on, we're doing a bit about rural crime because she likes a good bit of farmland, doesn't she?
Yes, that's coming up next.
Very interesting story. A treasure hunter dug up a £30,000 golden nugget. That word always does my head in.
Nugget.
After scanning farmland loose to just 20 minutes with a faulty metal detector.
I love
How's
that.
it faulty? What does that mean?
This takes us back to the pandemic because this chap, Richard Brock, I think he was supposed to go to Australia for one of these treasure hunts during the pandemic. Couldn't go, of course. And anyway, he turned up to this place in Shropshire. Who knew there was
nugget
gold,
looks very
gold
odd.
under the flats of Shropshire? And despite the fact that his metal detector wasn't really working, and despite the fact that it only took him 20 minutes, he got this nugget of gold which could get him 30 grand at an auction.
See, if I uncovered that, I'd think it was a dog, a bit of dog do.
stop.
I mean, it looks
You
horrible.
certainly
It looks
wouldn't try and
absolutely
take it
horrible.
to it.
Them there are hills.
You've
Cash
got very
converted.
expensive dogs.
Well,
if
thank you
they're
so much
pooping
to
gold.
Emma and Matthew for
Thanks,
joining
gang.
us. They will be back with more papers in just under an hour.